Hello, wonderful people. This is Life Coach Sophie with another episode of The Truth Channel. And today's topic is about consciously focusing on the good. And I think there is a lot of, there are a lot of opinions, a lot of ideas about thinking positively and always, people expecting you to feel good and always be happy and always have a smile plastered on your face. And I want to start out saying that it's not about that. I mean, it's not about always necessarily being positive, high vibe and happy, because that is physically impossible. There is a lot to say for allowing yourself to feel all the feelings you have, especially as a highly sensitive person, and letting them flow by and pass by. And I actually wrote a post about that yesterday, saying how to be vulnerable and courageous, because having all these emotions going on at the same time, trying to force yourself into a place of just being super positive and happy and upbeat is pushing that realness away. And the more you push something away, the bigger it gets, right? So I want to start out by saying that I'm a really, really big advocate for you really holding your emotions and giving space to that, because that's what they need. They always just need to be felt. And the moment that you're able to do that and just see them for what they are, just passing emotions, and you're giving them loving space to be there, then all of a sudden the struggle is gone. And actually what you'll feel beneath that is your basis of joy and happiness and fulfillment and just this trust and faith in yourself. And it's like the weather, like the clouds passing by. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes there's a storm, sometimes it's snowy. But it's all part of the process. It's all part of just, being human. So the moment that you're able to embrace that and just let that be, then your true natural state of well-being can come back as quickly as possible. But not even that is necessary, because you trust that you will get there when the timing is right. So it's very much about flow, and that is a skill, because I think we are so obsessed with you're supposed to be like super ecstatic all the time. I mean, I know I used to think that. And so even having the slightest feelings of sadness or frustration or depression or anxiety in my case, I judged myself for that. So that wasn't what was helping at all. Had I learned much sooner to just allow myself to have these feelings and to feel the anxiety and move forward towards my values and my dreams anyway, then that would have definitely caused me way less suffering. And you see the difference there, that sometimes you just feel pain, you feel sadness or anger, and that is, a part of life. But then we add the struggle by fighting against it and making it wrong and really beating up on ourselves. So I want you to see that difference, that you can really influence these moments of maybe vulnerability, anger, fear, or whatever, and just allowing them to be, and not going into the, oh my God, I'm wrong for this, what is wrong with me, I'm depressed, I need to call a psychologist. No, it's fine. You have these moments, and the less you fight against them, the smaller they become, because they don't need to shout in order to get your attention, because you're just lovingly holding them in your attention. You're allowing them to pass and to transform, and for yourself to get back to your natural state of well-being. So with that said, this live is called Focused on the Good. Focus on the good, because we do also have a choice that whenever we are in a place of challenge, or you're like, hey, I'm not really happy with this situation, you can, even though it's good to respect your feelings, you can then actively focus on the good and also change your experience in that sense. And I think a very, very beautiful skill to learn and really to make into a thing to focus on. Hey Ella, I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy to connect. is that whenever you have a challenge or a difficult situation, is to look at, hey, how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And I truly believe that everything is in your experience because you call it into your experience. And so let's say you're in the hospital and you have to get surgery, and then there are complications, and then everything is taking much longer, and everything is like going completely against what you planned, and you are completely depressed about it and just angry with the world. And it's totally understandable because it's a really crappy situation to be in. On the other hand, apparently it was necessary for you to stop and to learn a different approach to life. And I really realized that looking back on my anxiety disorder, I'm so incredibly happy I got it, which at the moment I hated it with all my guts. But it allowed me to really get in touch with my highly sensitive self, because I had to understand that I had to learn to respect my own needs, because I wasn't doing that. And I went so into overload that because of that, my system just exploded, right? So it was such a massive wake-up call, and I'm so grateful for it because I learned how to be more respectful of my high sensitivity and my needs and really love myself through the whole process. I am now able to help other people do the very same, and that is such a blessing. And also, I'm able to, of course, take much better care of myself and become the best version of myself, which then has allowed me to be in this place where I can inspire others. Had that not happened, I don't know, maybe I would still be in Holland, maybe I would be, I don't know what would have happened. But I was always determined to find the solution, which, I mean, I was looking in the wrong places because I wanted to get rid of the anxiety, and only when I learned how to embrace it could I let it go. And really get to what was true for me. Through self-love exercises, I could really get in touch with, hey, what is my truth? And that's where I heard Italy and moved there nearly 9 years ago, so such a long time ago. But it was because I was determined to really go for, to get the lesson out of it, to learn from it, and really find what was meant for me there. And that required a lot of courage because it means opening up and really looking at the painful things, seeing a psychologist, doing a mindfulness course, reading loads of books. I was determined to get to the other side of it. And so I always focused on the good because I always knew that there was one answer. I just always had this intuitive knowing that I knew there was one answer. There was one answer to this entire struggle. And I remember really, I just know it, and I couldn't see it. And I just had to look at myself in the mirror because the answer to that question was myself. I just had to accept myself and embrace myself and love myself so that the entire struggle was gone. I could drop the rope and just really, really embrace who I was and surrender to that so that my true self could come out and not the constructed version that I thought I had to be like, right? So it's so much about, letting go, surrendering, and trusting that when you do that, you are totally able to deal with what life is giving you. And I think we have this massive distrust against ourselves, and that's why we think we need to look a certain way or act a certain way or buy a certain house or whatever to construct our ego and this idea about ourselves. But actually, if you take all of that away, and who are you really? And that's scary in a sense because you're like, who am I really? But the moment that you find that out, when you realize that, and you know that you can count on yourself, you are your best friend, then whatever happens, you're going to be fine. And that knowing and that trusting, that is key to living a life that you're really happy about, because that's where you dare to take the leap. And that's where you go, in the direction of your dreams courageously, which doesn't mean you don't have any fear, but you go because you know that whatever happens, you can count on yourself. And having that, with you, that is massive. That is the most important thing, I think, to aim for in life. Ella, you're saying resistance is such a sucker. I know resistance is very interesting. I always, whenever I feel resistance to something that's like, at the beginning you're like, oh, I don't like it, I don't want it, whatever, get it out of my face. But then when you're able to see it as an opportunity for growth and really learning more about yourself, and you dare to dive into it because it always hides some sort of pain. But when you dare to really open that up through journaling or asking yourself questions or talking to a coach and really opening yourself up and allowing the truth to come out, that's where you set yourself free, and then the resistance can dissolve and you can go to what is naturally meant for you. I think we really need to learn how to give in to flow so much more and to just let things unfold naturally instead of trying to force it, and instead of trying to, be something that we're not, and trying to stick to this idea that you have of yourself or other people have of you. And just be yourself. And going back to the title of this episode, Focus on the Good, is so much about choosing to take care of yourself and choosing to be aware of how much power you actually have. And I think I've always done this very naturally. I think I've always been, just like I said, also with the anxiety disorder, I could have gone into, well, I have meds, I can go on, whatever, fuck that shit. But no, I was determined to learn from it and to go beyond it. And so every situation, everything that's thrown at me, or everything that I've manifested, because in the end, we all manifest whatever apparently we need to learn or grow from. It's like, how can I take the best of this, right? And so whenever there's a situation that you're not really happy about, well, how can you turn it around? I remember, before moving to Italy, I was still working at the secondary school, which, I loved the work in itself, but the bureaucracy and all the meetings and all this stuff with colleagues, and, that was boring. And I remember feeling so much resistance against that and being like, oh, I just want to be in Italy. I just want to, be over this. But then these months that I still had left allowed for me to generate an income that I was able to take towards my dream. And so that shift made everything worthwhile. And I was like, okay, I'm able to deal with maybe this more challenging, boring, frustrating part, because it serves a bigger purpose. And that is very much a very mature choice to make. To really look at like, hey, why am I doing this right now? And it's very childish in a way to be like, oh, I don't like this now, I want something else. Like I watched another Red Table Talk, the one with Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and her daughter and her grandma. And they were talking about love and how, because of Tinder and all these things, you think people are you can just swipe them by. You can just be like in a relationship and some struggle comes up or some challenge, you're like, whatever, I'm just swiping you out of my life. And so there's a lot of instant gratification that we're looking for, a lot of instant success, a lot of instant love, everything. And that is really dangerous, because if you always swipe away what's not working for you, you never get to learn the lesson. You never get to, work through things, because love, your partner mirrors what you need to learn, right? So, and yes, that's scary because you need to open up and be vulnerable and very ugly and cry and all these things and share your most inner fears that you didn't even know you had. But the moment that you do, that's where you find the connection. And this has been a massive journey for me too, but because I knew that I wanted this, I was willing to go through the pain and the struggle and the difficulty of really opening up and being vulnerable and just sharing everything, because I had the bigger picture in mind. I was like, I want to be with this man, and so I'm willing to really go for it completely. And that means a lot of surrender and a lot of, going for it. But I knew I could, because even if it hadn't gone well, I knew I had myself to fall back on. And so that's key for whatever you do in your life, right? And it's so much about stepping into that bigger version of yourself and being like, hey, maybe this situation isn't really working for me right now, but what is it that I'm focusing on? What can I focus on that makes this weight or this temporary situation or this challenge worthwhile? How can I learn from it, and what am I doing it for? And so you raise yourself to the higher level where you can totally cope with maybe whatever is challenging right now. And it's also part of life, and that's where I come back to this instant life that we're all living. It's like everything is supposed to be ecstatic and wonderful and fantastic and amazing all the time. Well, what if you allowed for boredom to be there? What if you allowed for sadness to be there? What if you allowed for frustration to be there? Because they are the places that you learn from, and where you are able to ask yourself, so what is it that I do want? And you grow in the process, right? Because if you were just living on the mountaintop all the time and everything was amazing, I mean, at some point that gets boring too, which is fine. And life is an ebb and flow, right? And so when you're able to zoom out, I think zooming out is such a beautiful skill. Just look at your life from afar, and then actually you have a pretty awesome life, right? We get so focused on like, oh my God, what's not working, this, and you go around and like, you're this close. I mean, you can't even really look at my face when I'm like this, but if I zoom out, you're like, oh, hey, this is a woman speaking here, and it's actually, nice to be here. Instead of like me being in your face and not even being able to see and catch my message because you're up too much up close. So I'd like to ask you to zoom out on your own life for a second. Zoom out and look at the general picture, and, just look at what you have. You already have everything you desire. Because also in the desire, there can be so much struggle, right? If you're desiring things, and then a part of that is also being sad about it not being here yet. But what if you just really allowed yourself to really see how much you already have, and that joy and that abundance and that gratefulness, gratitude, I should say, that's where you are then lifted up naturally towards what is meant for you. And things take time, and things need to unfold, and things need to grow. The moment that you can really appreciate everything you already have, that's where there's no more struggle. It is so incredibly beautiful. And your inner being knows what you desire, and the universe has gotten the memo. And if you're doing, mindset work, you're reading mindset books, or you're listening to Abraham Hicks like I'm doing, and you're every time I have a dandelion, and that's the blowy flower, I blow it every time and I state my desire. The universe knows so incredibly well what you desire, and so sometimes just letting it go and being aware of what you have and seeing the abundance and everything that's already there, that is really sometimes the best thing to do, instead of like fighting and struggling and working hard. You are safe, you're loved, you're supported, you're already here, and that is a miracle in itself. And everything you desire is going to come to you naturally, and you will find the inspired action, you will get the intuitive hits, and you will get the knowing what you will need to do next. But let's get out of the fight. Let's get out of the struggle, and let's just, let ourselves be who we truly are. And from that place, we will make the right decisions. So that's my invitation for you today. Let me know what you thought of this episode and what you're taking away. And I really want to thank you and honor you for being here, taking the time to really listen to your own intuitive hit and follow that, because there was a message in here for you today. And I would love for you to share it. Also, when you share it, you anchor it in even more, and so you take it with you throughout the day, and it's not just another thing, just a quote that you say you saw and it's like, oh yeah, but really take what's yours here. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again soon. And talking about Instagram and Insta Life, I am on Instagram as well, of course, and I love sharing quotes and pictures of my life, and even stories and of my dog and everything. So if you'd like to connect there, it's Sophie Charlotte Coach. So Instagram at Sophie Charlotte Coach. I would love to connect with you there. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm wishing you a glorious day, and miracles are happening all the time. It's just a matter of focusing on them and seeing them. Lots of love and courage, and talk to you again super soon. Goodbye, everybody.